Welcome to Southern Radio. We are back with little Dave for the true episode 52.
Right.
You're a little
Last
off.
time was just a tease.
Yes. So this is the official. We've done a full year every week, 52 weeks, without missing one. So I know we both are very proud of that. So we've talked about that last week. No need to dig our heels in with that anymore. But what I thought I would start here, Dave, is we had a scheduled off week for you coming, and you reached out to me in your update and said, "Hey, I think we should go ahead and start that now." And the reason I'm bringing that to light is so many competitors, and or honestly, anybody who's lifting and cares about their physique, they're so scared to say that or admit that or even take one. So I'd love for you to talk through your thought process and what your body was telling you to make you send me that email.
Yep. So trained back on I think that was Sunday. I trained back when that did happen. And it was like kind of like a shitty workout. Like I made it good by just pivoting around and made it a better workout, but it everything felt heavy, joints felt achy. And I was like, all right, cool. Maybe that's just a one off. So I was like, cool. It wasn't a bad workout, but it was one I definitely had to fight for to like instead of like you just go in and some of it feels like gravity feels like turned off. Where up to that point, like my training legitimately had felt like someone had turned down gravity. So that one was I was like, all right, cool, something is up.
Yeah.
And then the next day is my chest and shoulder day, and that's like when I always have like phenomenal days with. And it was like mediocre. And it was more like I felt everything in my bones.
Yep.
Like nothing hurt, but it just I pick up a weight and I could feel my like humerus be like, okay, like I'm not supposed to be feeling bones here.
Yes.
So I basically wrapped up that workout and then texted you. Like I texted you immediately when I was done. I was like, yeah, let's take a fucking rest week. Let's because like it was scheduled for the next week, but in
Yep.
my mind it's like, well, I'm gonna not really losing out on progress, but I'm not going anywhere for that rest week. But if the entire week before that is I have 6 shitty workouts or 4 shitty workouts,
Right.
like my progress can actually go away,
Correct.
right? So it's like, why don't we just bump that over there and fix that issue?
Yes.
And then while I'm just standing still, my body can get to where it needs to go, so that today when I get back to the gym,
Yep.
shit's in the positive direction.
Yes. Yeah. And again, what I will always go on that's the maturity of a competitor or a lifter is not to fight those warning signs. Our body are incredible machines, but they will give you symptoms of either growth or something's not progressing. And everything you just described is bang on. And how I always know, like, hey, it's time to take a break. And I know you and I have talked about this in a previous podcast. Like, deloads for you and I just aren't very effective. As a means for recovery. It's better for us to take 5 to 7 to 10 days off and just fully rest and chill out and then go back at it
Yep.
full speed. And
Yeah.
again, I know again that takes a lot of mental fortitude for people who have a desire to get better. And
Yeah.
they think, oh, well, I'm going to take a week off and I'm taking 3 steps backwards. And as you and I both know, that is not the case.
Right.
That-
And that's like the huge thing. As long as your nutrition's on point, like
right,
I always laugh at this a little bit because everybody knows how difficult it is to put on muscle.
right, yeah,
But like if your nutrition's on point and you're still eating what you should be,
mhm,
right? That muscle is pretty difficult to lose too.
correct. Yes,
Your body doesn't like it put it there for a reason,
yes,
you know? And if you don't change the reason for it to be there, you're like 10 days out of the gym, your body doesn't give that's a fucking speck in
yep,
the time it took you to put that muscle on.
yep, yep.
Like, yeah, you might be a little flat, but like whatever.
That comes back in one session.
Yeah.
And I know you and I aren't giant science people, but it's 2 weeks of full inactivity, like being completely sedentary, where muscle begins to disappear. 2 full weeks. That's saying not walking. That's as if you just laid in the bed and were in a coma for 2 weeks. So,
Yeah.
you're still moving, you're still active, you're still propelling yourself up and down the stairs and sitting on and off a toilet and the couch and your work chairs. So it's like, it's not going to disappear. Like, take a deep breath, yes, as you said, may look a little smaller or downsized because you weren't blown up with a pump. But again, as long as you don't throw your nutrition out the window, I've never noticed any downsides. I've
No.
only noticed, hey, my body comes back to life. I will always get 1 to 2, maybe 3 sessions of tissue work done. If anything, my muscle was a little bit more volumized because I'm not beating the dog shit out of it. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
but again,
Well,
I'm
it's actually really funny. I would, after like 4 meals of the day, I was really full actually.
yeah, hell yeah,
Like it definitely was not flat. Like we have carbs in every meal. So it's like,
yeah,
but just like living life, I was like, wow, kind of feel like I have a pump.
yeah, and yeah. I mean that's what's so huge about that is one, you're not scared of it, and then two, it's like my body actually is able to not have to deal with stress at all through a daily basis. And it's
Mhm.
huge when you remove that. And then maybe you can click some boxes off of things that have been on your plate that you haven't been able to wrap up. Like to me, that relieves
Yeah.
stress. If I can relieve stress, that means I can grow better. So one thing I
Yeah.
do want to talk about here is I'm just going to share. I have your spreadsheet pulled up from your off week, and I just wanted to talk about the calories here because I think it's something people are curious about. So I pulled your food back to 300 grams of protein, 253 grams of carbs, and 91 grams of fat. So that puts you just over 3,000 calories at 3,033, which is far less than you're used to. But I mean, I think, let me see here if I can pull it up. So again, I can use really accurate numbers. Like on a high day, for example, your calories were over 5,000. On a normal training day, you were at 4,274. So that was at the peak of your rebound phase. So
Mhm.
pretty substantial calorie drop. And like your weight peaked what at 237 and some change. And
Mhm.
your update Sunday was what, 232, if my memory's right?
Yep. Exactly. 232 flat.
Yep.
So,
So you figure like after you train today, train tomorrow, I bet your weight's easily back to 235
oh, easily.
on Wednesday, fasted check-in. Like, and
Mhm.
again, that shows you that if anything, the part of the reason the scale droppers reduce food, obviously,
Mhm.
but another part is reduce inflammation.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and for someone like you who trains extremely hard and effective and efficient, like that's a big deal. And you remove all that joint inflammation that you were feeling, and then next thing you know, you're going there today. We're gonna do a little pump workout, and you'll be full throttle come Tuesday. So
Mhm.
train back. It's your first official day, even though today we're getting back in the move and the swing of things. So yeah, I think that your rebound went as perfect as they always do. Your hamstrings healed, and we're through a week off, and then now we're starting your health phase, and we're gonna get through this portion and then get right back into a growth phase. So it's, if
Mhm.
you think about that, like a timeline, that's one of the reasons I think you and I've always done well together is I do a good job of like planning a rough roadmap, and then even though we have a plan, if there's a detour we have to take, we just take it.
Yeah.
And if I'm using an analogy of a long trip, like say across the country, there's going to be times we have to stop and find a restaurant or a Sheets to piss at, or there's going to be a time where we're going to stop and heat a meal up. Like it's
Uh-huh.
no different. Like we're going to stop and get gas and fill the car. Like we know where we need to get by next year, and then so we have like a rough idea of what we're doing in the middle, and then we just shift gears when we need to. So.
Exactly.
I know a lot of coaches sadly don't do that for their clients. And I've always been a big believer of we need something to chase in the long term, and then we need a hyper focus in the short term. And
Mhm.
those two things is what always propel your ship. And
Yep.
if you don't have one with your current coach, reach out to them and ask them for one. Like, hey, what's in your brain? Like, what are we looking for over 12 weeks and the next 52 weeks? And then you fill in the blank. And I think any coach that's there and tells you like, I can write you the exact plan we're going to do for the entire time, like they're just full of shit and they're selling you something. But I will always have what I call a loose outline.
Yeah, you got to have the rough draft of the what's going to hunt.
Yeah.
Especially because it gives people ideas of what's going to, if you and like you can have the most perfect plan, but if the person doesn't attach to it and believe in it, it doesn't fucking matter.
Agreed.
Because
Agreed.
if they're second guessing everything you tell them, that's going to show on their training.
Yes.
It's going to show on their nutrition.
Right. 100%. So, I thought that was a good place to start the podcast because it's always relevant to speak about what successful athletes do over the course of the year. And
Mm.
that's a big thing that I always run into with people, and I'll say, hey, it's been a long time since you've had an off week. And they're like, I don't need one. Like, all of your updates in the last 3 weeks have told me you need one.
Yeah.
It's time.
Yeah. Yeah. And usually by the time your coach sees it, but you've gone a little bit too far
Correct.
because you're seeing negative adaptations at that point.
Yep. And I really challenge you all out there, if you have a negative outlook on an off week or an off day or off 5 days, that will do nothing for you if you just sit around and stress about not training all the time. Like, you have to do it and you have to believe in it and say, hey, what I'm doing right this minute, which is resting, is going to make me next week be able to train even harder and be able to eat even more food. Because
Yep.
it's not just I'm giving your body a break on the external, meaning what everyone sees on the outside with your muscle, but it's also I'm giving you a digestive break of not eating all that damn food every day. Like,
Mm-hmm.
to be able to pull your protein back, to be able to pull your carbs back. I mean, I know some people might think of that, look at that, the numbers I listed, and like, man, it's still a lot of food. Well, it's not a lot for you. Like,
No.
if I had to guess, you were tearing through those meals and you're like, fuck me, I'm hungry.
Yeah.
And again, that goes back to, we've built your metabolism. We've gotten you in a good spot to where you're hungry as hell on 3,000 calories,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
what most dudes sadly eat as an off season and say they're growing. So
Mm-hmm.
you and I both know that's not true, or at least not for you or I. So yeah, so I really challenge everyone out there: embrace it, lean into it. Like, it's okay to not be in the gym. Like, I don't think you or I ever view our identity as lifting, even though we really love it. It's not us. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, hard training is fun and we love it. That's our most probably favorite or one or two activities to ever do on the planet. But it's okay that if we don't go to the gym one week, we suddenly don't really, hey, Chris, you aren't a bodybuilder anymore.
Yeah.
I can chill out, bro. Like, yeah, it's okay. Take a deep breath, watch movies, watch Netflix, uh, you know, do a hobby for Christ's sake. I don't give a damn what it is. Like, just
Yeah.
have a blast in life. Like,
Yeah.
and it doesn't mean you fall off the rails with eating either. Like, I think a lot of times I'll have guys that'll take an off week, like, I eat half my meals. I'm like, fucking A. Like, that's also not the point of this. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Super true.
Yeah. So all right. So transitioning here off your off week, we had a really good listener question from last week's podcast. So I thought I would do it. And because it's a great topic and something that I know I've seen for the last almost 2 decades of coaching people. So this guy's name's Mohammad, and he asks, let's see, can you please give a deep dive on what you will do with someone who has a high body fat and their maintenance calories are low? Should this person only eat at or below maintenance and keep strength training, or do the reverse dieting thing? Thanks. So it's kind of a lot in there. Do you want to start or you want me to? I don't care. Either one.
Well, that one's going to take a solid assessment of what's happening first, right?
Correct.
If they've been in the gym and they're training, but they're eating it below maintenance and nothing's happening, we need to take a gander at A, their nutrition, B, their training, because they're both bullshit.
I would assume so, yes.
Those are just equations, and they're not calculating, so it didn't work.
Yes.
And if those things are not in place, I'd say maintain that slight deficit and fix everything else.
Yes.
If that's not right, and get you headed on the right direction. And then if that person is actually training hard and they just dumb fucked their way into a hole, that point they might need to get a little bit more food so that they can actually train hard again. Because if they're eating so little that they can't train hard, that needs to be looked at. But that's just going to be that window of training.
Right. Yeah.
So we might just be right at like maybe a 50-calorie surplus just to give their body a little bit of an oomph. And then what happens as soon as that they start building muscle again, and that 50-calorie surplus becomes a deficit because of the added tissue. And then you just work down from there.
Right. I think something else to consider is you need to really lay your program out and look at it methodically, because there could be, I mean, there's not a lot of information here, but it could be that you aren't accounting for actually how many things go in your mouth. Like I've seen that a time and time again. Chris, I'm eating maintenance calories. I'm in a calorie deficit, and they send me their sheets, and it's like, or they send me, I'm like, just talk to me about a food diary. Just give it to me. And it's like they're eating way more food than they actually assume. So if you aren't measuring your meals, you can't tell me if you're in a surplus, maintenance, or deficit. Like that
No.
to me is step one. If you are at maintenance, which I assume that's like some weird rough calculation, or you've been following that meal plan for say 3 months and your weight hasn't changed one bit, I would highly encourage you to get some blood work done.
Yep.
See what your hormones look like. So that's step two to me. Number three, I would assess training, as you said, because I have, and I know you and I bang on this a lot, but I have yet to meet someone who trains hard, does their cardio, follows a meal plan, meaning they eat clean food and they cannot burn body fat. I've
Yeah.
yet, I, unless your estrogen is 3,000, your testosterone 0,
Mhm.
just yet to see it. To address another question there about should I reverse diet? A reverse diet to me is only going to happen when you're truly lean. And by lean, I mean sub 8% body fat. Like
Mhm.
a reverse diet would imply that your body fat is low, your cardio is relatively high for you, and your food is relatively low.
Mhm.
So if you're missing one of those three, there's no point of a reverse diet.
Mhm.
As you said, with building back a nutrition plan, and I've done this with countless people, is they'll come to me high body fat and they're lost or tell me they don't eat much food. I'll actually give them more food than they're accustomed to, and I'll restart the process. So
Yep.
let's say I don't know what he considers high body fat. For some, that might be 12, it might be 25. So
Jerome and Fritz at 6.
yeah, right. Yes. Yeah, yeah. My glutes only show 7 lines today. Badass. Right. So, let's for easy math say you're 18 to 20% body fat and you're eating 1,500 calories a day. That's terrifying to me.
Mhm.
And then let's say you're doing cardio on top of that. So you're doing 5 sessions and say 45 minutes of cardio, just to give you a more clear picture, and you're training 5 days a week.
Mhm.
All day long, I would do this. I would immediately drop you down to 4 days a week training and tell you I need your intensity through the freaking roof.
Mhm.
And I would ask for sets videoed for proof.
Yeah.
If you want to know what a set should look like, go to your Dave or my Instagram and watch, or my YouTube. That's what a
Mhm.
set should look like. If your sets don't look like that, cut what you're doing in half and make every one of those match. So if you're only doing 8 sets, make everyone to the end. Okay. That's step one with training. Pull everything back. So pull it back to 4 days a week training. And then you're going to increase the intensity of the session. Next, I'm going to take that cardio and we'll flip on its head. If you're doing steady state cardio, I'm going to make you do hit intervals. So if you're doing 5 days right now, I'm going to probably keep it at 5, but I'm going to knock you down to 10 hit intervals per day. Easy. So
Mhm.
I cut your cardio by what's that? Almost 3/4.
Mhm.
But I'm asking for hard. So just like your training, you need to look in the mirror and say, what is hit cardio? It's not a leisurely pace. You can't talk on the phone doing it. You should feel like you're dying.
Yeah.
Okay. I just handled the training and the cardio. Let's talk about nutrition. I would at minimum double what you're eating
Yeah.
on a training day. I would literally double it. So hear me out. If you're eating 1,500 calories, I'm going to double that to 3,000, and I'm going to pack a ton of those carbs around your training window. So pre, intra, and post. So I'm not going to throw a bunch of hard numbers out outside of a calorie total, because honestly, that's what we do for a living. But I need you to think about that. To get 3,000 calories in a day, 9 times out of 10, you're going to have to get your protein above 6 ounces per serving.
Mhm.
Around your training window, I'm probably going to want 80 to 100 grams before, 40 to 30 to 50 intra, and then 100 after. So if you look at that, I just gave you a shitload of food around your training window. 9 times out of 10, that's 250 grams of carbs. All right, carbs are probably covered, and then fat, just fill in the blank. So then put fat away from your workout. That's what I would start you at. So to do everything you just described, Dave, I would add food around the workouts so your workout performance goes up. Now, I'm also asking you to train less. So that means on your off days, I would keep those calories on the lower end. I'd probably put you at 2,000.
Mhm.
So you're getting 1,000 calorie decrease, but you're doing that 3 days a week. So you're going to be lowered calories. So if your body's saying, hey, on a training day, we're getting 3,000, on off days, we're getting 2,000, and then we see what happens over the course of the first month. 9 times out of 10, what will happen is you may start to be like, man, I actually have more muscle fullness and I can train harder and I can train my sets to failure where couldn't make it through 8 sets. Now I'm doing 10 sets to failure per session. Okay, great. That is all progress. We're moving in the right direction. Now you have to ride that bitch out.
Yeah. And also not really adding sets to a degree you probably don't even want to do, just like increasing the sets you're currently doing.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Because that's where so many people get so fucked up. Like if they have 8 sets, all of them can be hard, but as soon as you add the 10th set, some of them aren't hard anymore.
Yes. Yes. Yep. Agreed.
And it turns into intensity to endurance.
Yes.
And that's where, well, we all know what endurance athletes look like. We know what powerlifters look like, right?
Right.
Your goal in your job as a bodybuilder is to not look like you run around.
Yes. Yeah.
Like,
right.
So pretty basic shit there.
Right. So if you look at that as a whole, that's honestly where I would start you. And then here's the bad thing, because most of those people out there that are in that scenario, they hear that and they're petrified. Like, oh God, the scale weight might go up. Well, yeah, the scale weight probably is going to go up initially. That's not a bad thing. So let's say you're 5'8", 200 pounds and soft in the scenario I just rolled out. You might see 205, 210, but your workout performance is going this way and your muscles are fuller and rounder. Okay, the body fat eventually is going to start coming down. But you may hang out and hover in that 205, 210 range, but each month, every other week, you're looking drastically improved. And it's because you're doing what we talked about with building a metabolism. The whole maintenance calorie thing, I joked when I was reading you the question before we started, I was like, I don't know what maintenance calories are. Like, I've either been in a surplus to gain muscle or been in a deficit to burn body fat. Like, I don't know maintenance. I wouldn't even know I know people say there's all these calculators on the internet that can tell you that, but a calculator can't form an equation for how hard I train, what my rest is like, what my stress is like. So, I mean, the level of calories that you personally can burn body fat on, I bet you a calculator would tell you it's physically impossible.
Yeah. Oh, easily.
And the reason is because you've lived like a bodybuilder for over a decade, and we've built your food tolerance so freaking high. So in this current state of where most people find themselves is way drastically under eating. And I know a lot of people assume it's a lot of females. It's a lot of dudes too. Like,
yeah.
Think about the guys that you and I have hung around where you look at a meal and you're like, that's all you're gonna eat. I thought you said you're in the all season. I am, man. That's a 4-week out meal right there, bro.
Right. Definitely. There's only 1 cup of rice in there. It's like, how are you over 200 pounds?
You know those little Pyrex dishes that are like this?
Yeah.
That thick. I joked one time, like it was a long time ago. My mom got me some of those for Christmas. Like, Chris, this would be great for your meals. I was like, you think my meal fits in that?
Dude, actually, it's a funny story. So I ordered some meal prep containers, like the plastic ones.
Yes. Yeah.
From Amazon, and I've had I usually get like the 9x5 size.
Yes. Yep.
Which easily fits my meals. And for whatever reason, they sent this 4x6 thing.
Oh, right.
And I was like, I ended up bringing them to the gym and giving them to a friend of mine. She competes in bikini. I was like, you can fit your meals in this, but I can't even fit my fucking 8 ounces of protein in here. Right. I need a separate container for my rice.
Right. I used to do these posing clinics on the Saturday and Sunday. Angel and I would, and I remember I was in there one day and I got my cooler out, and one of the girls was like, "How many meals is that for you?" Because it was one of the Pyrex, like one of the thick ones. And she's like, that's supposed to feed a family, right? I'm like, yeah, it's my off-season meal.
One of my favorites, the girl who does body work for me, she'll tell you this.
Mhm.
But I came to her after a lift and I was gonna eat the meal and then get body work done.
Mhm.
And I show up with the same fucking thing, but it's a thing of cream of rice. It was like when you had me at like 160 grams of cream of rice,
Yes.
two Rice Krispies, 200 grams of banana,
Mhm.
and like 60 grams of isolate, and it was all just in this vat. And I
Right.
pulled that out, and she's like, "What the fuck is this?" And I'm like, "Oh, post workout." She's like, "Is that for a couple days?" And I'm like, "No, that's just this meal." But it's one of those 9 by 13 Pyrexes. It's like the funniest thing. She tells everybody that. She's like, "Yeah, and he just ate it in like 2 minutes."
Yep.
I'm like, "Yeah, it's fucking delicious."
Right. Yeah, it's that's always a hard concept to explain to people. Like, unless they can physically see it in front of them, like that's what a meal should look like. Like, yeah, man, it's not gonna be easy. Like, if I've always thought if I can fit a whole one of my meals on a regular size plate in the off season, it's 99 times out of 100 not gonna be big enough unless it's mounded like a mountain.
Yeah.
And I don't like all my food like that sometimes. I like to keep separate. So I think to get back to this question is I know that can be a challenging place because you want to get the body fat off. And the logical thing would be, hey, if I get all the body fat off, but if your calories are so freaking low that you have nowhere to go, meaning next thing you know, you look down, you're starting to eat less than 1,000 calories a day to burn body fat. Like that's not effective. Yeah,
No.
your workouts are going to be garbage. You won't be able to even remotely get a pump, and you'll always be lacking energy. And that's never an equation that I want to fall into, ever. So, step one, build your metabolism. I would not do a reverse diet. I would immediately take your calories up, relatively aggressively. As you heard me say, I would double them. And then I would probably subtract 500 to 1,000 for an off day. And I would do exactly what I laid out. And then from there, you just have to listen and read your body, or you have to hire an intelligent coach who knows how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times that won't always be the sexiest approach. I would also be sure to double down on like health supplements, glucose disposal aids. I would even probably throw in some injectable carnitine if I'm being honest with you. Like all things to help shuttle and partition nutrients. Um, could you use insulin pre and post lift to help shuttle some of those carbohydrates? You certainly could. For most people who aren't competitive, I'm not going to probably recommend insulin, but you could do that. So
Mm-hmm.
all things that I would recommend. And if you notice, you and I both started with training and assessing nutrition before we ever talked about anything else. So,
Yeah, this is not a drug problem.
you know, no. Any other final pieces of advice before we move on from that?
No, but I did think about this on the funny thing on like choosing a good coach too
Yeah.
is as a competitor, if you come to a coach and you're in that situation and you're like, hey, there's a show in 10 weeks, let's do it. And the coach actually agrees to it. That guy just wants your money
Yes.
or he doesn't care. He doesn't care if you die.
Right.
But also keep that in mind as the competitor is are you coming to like you may not I'm not saying you have to be in a perfect spot, but why on the fuck would you come to to be you're like cool, I'm not losing weight, I'm eating 1,000 calories a day, let's do a fucking show.
Right. Yeah.
Because that leaves you basically everything we just said you to do you couldn't do if you had 10 weeks.
No, no, that's not it. No.
So
You know what most coaches will probably have to do in that situation is pound you full of Clen and T3 and let the drugs do the work.
yep.
Because can you truly take calories any lower? Like, and
No.
you're right. Unless you want to completely shut your system down. And then if you start doing that, like then even the T3 won't even work.
Yeah.
So like, and I think sadly, that's where competitors say, oh, this coach gave me metabolic damage. No, you were fucked before you came to them.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
you just tried to use a show as a band-aid for your nutrition problem.
Mm-hmm.
Because another question I would ask is how many cheat meals are you having a week to be high body fat and low calories during the week? Like,
Mm-hmm.
what are your those are the first questions I would always ask. What do your weekends look like, or your off days, like
Yeah.
from lifting? Are you eating Chipotle and count that as your post lift meal? Are you eating Five Guys to get food in? Are you eating more? How many shakes are you having a day? These are all things that I'd want to know.
Yeah. Well, also that like yeah, they might be their meal plan might say 1,000 calories, but all the random shit they add, they go get a coffee from Starbucks, they're 300 calories deep.
Yep.
They eat the donut at the office, what's there. Then they have the random fun sized candy what's lying around the house. And it's like, cool, there's 800 calories you ate, and that's a daily thing too.
Yep.
So you're actually eating 1,800 calories, and if you're a 120-pound girl, like, good luck.
Right. I actually had a good competitor of mine say to me this week, he's like, Chris, like, I've been following the rebound diet, but not as closely as I should. And I've really regressed fast. And he was like, I found that he's like, even if I have one off meal extra or two per week, like the rate of regression is drastic. I'm like, yep. Like, because the problem is like if we're going to into the reverse diet realm that you and I do, is I like to get your what I will consider your base 41 meals as high as possible, as quickly as possible. Well, if you're adding more calories on top of that already high calorie food, good luck.
Hmm.
It's a recipe for just accumulating body fat at an alarming rate.
Hmm.
And it always turns into this thing where it's like you're eating just to eat and you're not even eating for performance or because you're hungry. You're just eating because you haven't been able to eat leading into that show for, weeks on end. So it's such a negative feedback loop of, man, that was satisfying in the moment. And then you have like instant regret. And then you look at your photos week to week and you're like, man, I really did not manage this properly.
Yep.
And then they see you post these 8 week post show and you're like, oh, your glutes are still squared off. And you can see every line on your quads and you still have good abs and your stomach's not blown out and your face still has wrinkles by your cheeks. Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
and it's not because your calories are low, because we just talked about that. You're eating 5,000 fucking calories on a high day.
Mhm.
So it really railroads fast, which is interesting. And why you and I think, always talk about staying in that groove or in the pocket of eating your meals on time, on a schedule. And some weeks that means you don't even need a free meal. And it goes back to what I'm going to get this put on a fucking shirt, like maturing your mind as a competitor. Like,
Mhm.
I, I know you've said this 1,000 times as I, like, food will always be there. Like,
Mhm.
if you really want burgers and fries, I don't think there's any reason why you can't go make a 96 4 ground patty, put that bitch on the grill, use Ezekiel bread or sourdough bread as the toast or the bun, put pickles, ketchup, mustard, onions on it. Fuck, you could probably even use turkey bacon and have Alexia fries, or just cut your own fries out of the potatoes, and you have you an all-season meal right there.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah, it doesn't need to be a 10,000 calorie cheat just because it's a free meal.
correct. Like, because I hear people say, like, oh, I'm really craving burger and fries. Well, make that bitch at home. Like,
Yeah.
I know Five Guys is good, but for Christ's sake, like, if I can cut 40 grams of fat out of that meal,
Yeah.
suddenly I have a muscle building meal that tastes great and is kind of outside my realm of what I'm normally doing. Fuck, you could probably even put a real slice of high quality bacon on there and be just fine.
Yeah.
If I'm speaking candidly, because that's way better than going to Five Guys, having two double burgers, the small fry, which isn't small, in a milkshake, and
Hmm.
you have a third less calories. You eat that all this shit at home. And
Hmm.
oh, by the way, it didn't cost you $46.
Right. That's a harsh reality right now. It's like, but did I spend $50 on? Yeah, super true. I always really like the cheat meals. I like to like think in the back of my head before I have a cheat meal of like, am I gonna wake up tomorrow and be glad I did this?
Right.
And
Yep.
if that's a no, like it's not gonna happen. But like 99% of my cheat meals are because like my girlfriend's like, hey, I would love a chicken sandwich right now. To be like, fuck, I'll join you, you know?
Yep. Yep.
And that's how that goes. It's not because it's like, oh, I need fucking food, or like a family event what comes up. It's like, all right, cool. They're gonna have something there what's protein related. I'll
Yep.
have that as my off meal,
Yep.
just so like I can eat with that. Like they don't care if you have like, that drives me up a wall. You don't need to make anything a cheat meal for anybody,
No. No.
you know.
It's really interesting. So my free meal this past week was Angel and Daxton wanted to go shopping for Halloween stuff.
Mhm.
So like they loaded our front porch with pumpkins and hay bales, and he got some like ghost things to hang in the trees and shit, right? They love doing that together. Well, right beside that's it's like a Lowe's that they wanted to like. There's an Outback Steakhouse, and that's what they wanted to eat. So I was like, cool, I'll do that. I got a 11-ounce steak, top sirloin, 2 whole plain baked potatoes, and drank water.
Yeah.
Easy. Like
Exactly. Well, that's just the matter of fact of having your food match your goals.
right. Yeah.
Like it may not be perfect, but it's fucking 90%.
Right. Yeah.
Versus, go in the opposite direction.
Yep. Agreed.
Like, cool, if you just went and ate a stick of butter, had the same amount of calories, it's like, how is that going to make you better?
Right. 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 Fun fact, I was also hungry again in 2 hours. Like,
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where, he can go there and smash macaroni and cheese and have a Diet Coke and eat 2 pieces of the 2 of those loaves of bread and have an absolute blast. I'm eating with them, and it's no issue. Like I guess I just don't view it as that much of a hard necessity. Like the amount of times you could go overboard with that, because listen, I could have got a burger and fries and had a blooming onion and a piece of cake to go with it.
Yeah.
Or I could say, hey, like, it's the middle of the day on a Sunday. I still have 3 more meals to get in after this. That's gonna fuck me so hard if I ate that. So
Exactly.
again, that to me is, as you said, thinking ahead. I knew I had to train back today. Like, if I only got 4 meals in on a Sunday, dear God, that would stress me the fuck out.
Oh yeah.
I have to go train on Monday and I'm down 2 meals. How am I gonna make those up? It's what is going in here.
Uh-huh.
I also know that not everyone is probably quite as neurotic as you and I are. So, like, they wouldn't be that obsessive with it. They're, oh, I just had 4 meals. It's not a big deal. My calories explodes. But that's just not the way I'm wired.
Mhm.
I mean, as I said, I think last week before, I think even after I'm done bodybuilding, I won't do that stupid shit. Like because at the end of the day, like a steak and potato to me tastes delicious.
Yeah, that's what I want to eat anyways.
I mean, fuck, I only get red meat twice a week, so I mean, that tastes like a treat to me.
Yeah.
But it's a whole nother tangent, probably. But I was another question I would ask that viewer is, what is your cheat meal situation like? What are you doing? How hard is it? How aggressive is it? If they're not having free meals, then I would have to believe it's something to do with hormones, man. Like that's not a normal scenario.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I've had guys be successful just walking 20 minutes 4 days a week and being intelligent with their nutrition to where they don't eat garbage food. Like,
Yeah.
so something's going on. If you're training hard, if you're doing cardio, you're eating clean food, like something in that equation is off.
Yeah.
So, and as you and I think said last week, was that may be you needing to raise your expectations for yourself of what you call a good workout and then what you call clean food, because you and I's definition may be drastically different than theirs. Like, I don't think half the food I see like advertised on Instagram is what I would consider a diet meal.
Yeah.
Like,
Should be true. Yeah, not even close.
I'm like, hold on, you have tons of shit and like this much protein from a meat source. Stop it.
Yeah.
That's why I almost wish, like, I think the next time you come in and hang out, like, I'm gonna get Chaz to film a day in the life, but you and I together, and just see how similarly we do things, even though our plans may not be the same. Like,
Yeah.
our meals are gonna look roughly the same. It's meat, it's fucking rice, it's some kind of fat source, and usually a fruit. Like, we drink tons of intro. We still train hard. No matter if you were in an off season, I was pre-contest or flip flop. It all of our meals are gonna look relatively similar.
Yeah. Yeah. Very true.
I mean, I think that's really hard for people to wrap their mind around, and those food choices have been the same for the last decade. Like, I'm not reinventing anything. The only thing that I think that changes for me is, like, when it gets to a contest prep, like, I will opt for white fish and I will cut out the shakes. So I normally have
I definitely cut out shakes.
Yeah, I normally have 1 shake a day in the off season, 2 if I'm on like in a pinch, which is very rare. But I usually start one of the first changes I make in a contest prep at 10 weeks out is I pull my shakes out and I put fish in. So however many times I'm having that shake, which for me right now is 1, is I pull that shake out and the fish meal goes in. And that's how I introduce fish. And then normally what I do is I pull a chicken meal back and add a fish in. Outside of that, like I will add some vegetables in once my calories start to get really low or on the lower end for me. And that's just for satiation and digestive health and some nutrients. Because obviously I'm not eating fruit every meal, so I am missing vitamins and minerals that I would typically get from fruit. And if you're talking about like potatoes, I'm going to be missing potassium, for example, because I'm not having carbs in that meal. So
Yeah, I'm a big fan of when he's lowering people's foods to just leaving like as if carbs go under like 20 grams, and if they stop 20 grams in that meal, it's all coming from fruit.
right. Yes.
Because like most of the times, like 20 grams of banana is a lot more than like 20 grams of carbs of banana,
Right.
or like strawberries.
Oh, hell yeah. Yep.
Is a lot more like than like a half a cup of rice. Like the half a cup of rice is like you get one spoonful.
Right. Yes.
And then like strawberries, what we're talking like 150-ish grams. What is that roughly?
20
volume. Yeah. So it's like you throw a packet of Splenda on that, it's a fucking dessert.
Oh, I mean, oranges are not something else that's like really low. Cantaloupe, especially watermelon.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you can get 100 grams of watermelon, I think, for 7 grams of carbs. That's stupid. Like, and it tastes delicious. I mean, if you like watermelon. Honestly, the worst thing about watermelon is cutting that bitch up. It's just messy. But once you have a bunch of it cut, that's a fun fact for you guys out there who want carbohydrates and not to get them high. Like that's why I think I will always lean to fruit being such a powerful food source, is you can get a variety of it. It cures a sweet tooth and it gives you tons of nutrients. Like, and to me, it always leaves me leaving a meal feeling very satiated. And that's maybe how I was raised as a kid of like, if you finish your meal, you get a sweet dessert at the end. Awesome. Cool. Same thing. I get apples, berries, grapes, all that stuff's like being candy to me. Bananas. It's just, and especially if you're creative with how you cook it too. Like, I know you do that you put your apples in a Ziploc bag and put seasoning on them, or you like put them on the stovetop. All great things, So
no, there's no rules to this. Like as long as you learning how to make your food taste good is like the secret sauce of bodybuilding.
Right.
Because if I ate boiled chicken and plain rice for meals 1 through 6, like I could probably make myself do that for a couple of years, but I'm gonna really fucking hate it.
Correct. Yep.
But like most people are gonna be like, all right, 5 days in, they're like, I've eaten the same thing, 35 times.
Yeah.
Where with like chicken and rice, like you can, depending on how you like, throw that in the on the stovetop and mix in like some peppers. All right, cool, that's a different meal. You could whatever, throw some barbecue sauce on it. Jesus, that's barbecue chicken, whatever, just simple shit like that. Or like, all right, rice turns into cream of rice and we're having, cream of rice and a side of chicken. Or like you get crazy, like, okay, cool, we're going to do egg whites and cream of rice. We're making it into a pancake and then putting peanut butter on top for the fats.
Yep.
And it's like, is that really that hard?
I don't think so. Yeah. I mean, Ross all the time posts things on Flavor Game that blow my mind, the creations he comes up with.
Yeah.
I mean, that one that he just made with like cooking your egg whites and then blend them and putting them in that crackberry with real blueberries. Like, Jesus Christ, I bet that's delicious.
Yeah, I thought that too. And I was like, that's amazing.
And the food volume was enormous. So if you have a big appetite, this is a great meal for you.
I used to do that same thing, but I would cook the cream of rice on the stove.
Okay.
And then when the rice set up, I would just dump in my egg whites.
Right. Yep.
And it's already on the stove. So you cook it and it like adds like an extra inch into the thing. And it's just like, all right, cool. And then you just, done.
Yep.
But
I can tell you this, my meal for a long time driving across town to Gold's was I would cook a bowl of oatmeal that was 80 grams of carbs. 80 grams of raw oats. And then I would do 2 cups of egg whites, cook those. I would dump that in there, stir it up, and then chop bananas on top and then cover it in cinnamon.
Yeah.
Just have a big ass spoon and just shovel that in on the way to work. I know that might look gross, but that tasted so delicious to me.
Yeah. I did literally the same concept, other than I blended all of it together, made it into a pancake, and then put the banana on top of it, and then put it into slices so
Yes.
I could grab it out of a Ziploc bag while I'm driving,
Right.
and I
Yep.
don't have to worry about like silverware. And then I just throw the bag away when I'm done.
Yep. Agreed. Yep. I mean, I know you and I both do French toast.
Yeah.
Um, just easy ways to just smash high quality food, right? Um, I always shred my chicken by hand. I don't know why. It makes me feel like it's like really elegant and it
Yep.
tastes good. I don't know why. I used to chop it up with scissors and just shovel it in with a spoon. I mean, when I was when we're in California, you had that pizza flavored olive oil that I would cook a steak in and then saute vegetables, meaning onions and pepper, in the pan where all the steak juice was. And then I would add the steak and rice to it, stirred up. Man, that was one of the best meals I had. I was out there.
Yeah.
And it was just salt and pepper on top of it. Like,
Right.
for fuck's sake. But I guess that goes back to like getting a good quality meat source, or
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe just taking attention to detail. I mean, that couldn't take me more than 15 minutes.
No.
It took longer to fucking heat the pan up, probably.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting when you really begin to look at the thought process of free meals and why people have them. And I've always wondered I would really love to sit down with a vast group of individuals of thought process around free meals and just talk to them about like what goes through your mind, what does it make you feel like, how do you perform the next day, what did you feel like during and after, like, and really get some good data on it. Because I know that my thought process on them have changed over the years. Like I used to really look forward to them and especially crave them within a prep, when I was working with Shelby because my food was tended to be so low. Um, but now it's almost one of those things where if I have one, great. If I don't get one, it's just I don't sweat it. Like because
Mhm.
I mean, we both love tasty food. Don't get me wrong, but it will be there. Believe.
Mhm. So true.
So in the case of that guy specifically, I would have to assume either something's wrong hormonally or program wise or miscalculation of nutrients, or you just have to spend and listen to my words here 12 to 18, maybe 24 months building your metabolism. And that's going
Yeah.
to not be easy, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, it will pay such dividends in the long run if you invest that time, effort, and energy and not give up, right? Like,
Mhm.
because I mean, I'm sure there's been times in everyone who's watching out there in their bodybuilding where they almost want to throw their hands up and like, fuck, man, I'm trying everything, but I don't see the progress happening. And it's almost like that iceberg situation where it's like you see the water and it's like this little iceberg and then this huge thing building underneath of it. And it's like, if you just gave it another 6 weeks, you would see all your effort come to light. Which is why I think you and I inevitably succeed because we know that if we eat our nutrition plan, if we find ways to train harder and get our rest, progress will always come.
Mhm.
It may not be as much or as soon as we like it, but it's happening.
Yeah.
And that almost blind faith, which to me is not blind, that is intelligent faith, is why we can like take a deep breath and like, hey, just keep at it, bro. Like we're on the right path. We've been eating 42 meals a week for the last 12 months. It's gonna happen. Like you're getting better, even though you may not see it in the mirror. Um,
Mhm.
any final thoughts?
Yeah, that's perfect.
I think so too. I think so too. So my advice to Mohammad, keep your head up, bro. Like build your food up. Like, and don't build it slow. Take that bitch and double it. Like literally I'm telling you, double it. And then I need you to also double down on your training intensity and move all your cardio to hit. And if you think you need glucose disposal aids, by all means, add them in. Don't be scared. Like, I mean, it's a tool in the toolbox. But as you and I will always say, what's the best glucose disposal aid? Hard fucking training.
Mhm.
There is no pill that I can swallow that replicates a set of hack squat to the end. I am
No.
sorry. I, I've yet to see that happen. And which is funny why, anytime you and I get together to train, I always feel like my appetite is like this way.
Oh yeah.
Just a little bit of extra shit gets added on there. So yeah.
Mhm.
Um, until next time, Chris, Dave, we are out.